Yeah, what is going on, everybody? We are back with another episode of From My Experience podcast. I am your host, Rob, and I'm feeling fantastic today. These past couple of weeks have been personally enlightening, however you say it. They've been great. And I hope that y'all been doing great as well. As always, I want to start by saying thank you to all of our followers, listeners, and subscribers. If you've been commenting, if you've been sharing, if you've been calling, texting, emailing me to encourage me, thank you so very much. This podcast is all about promoting positivity and getting you the advice and the words of wisdom that you need so that you can take the next step forward in whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. And don't forget, you can always support the podcast by shopping with our affiliates. The link is in our description. Now, today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest. Oh, yes. Y'all know we love guests on this podcast. And this special guest is actually doing something that is heavily needed in our community, that being the Black community. Something that causes, she is solving the problem that typically causes a lot of pain, stress, grief, and division among families. I'm going to let her tell you all about that. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we have the founder and principal attorney of Ibekwe Law Firm, Miss Iffy Ibekwe.
Rob, thank you for having me on. That
No,
intro was everything.
you deserve it for the work that I know that you are putting in.
And can I just say that that piece of music you played reminds me of one of my favorite shows, which is Succession on HBO, which is all about backbiting families and wanting to make sure that they're kept within the money,
Mm-hmm.
within the trust, within the father's good graces. And it is, you have to listen to the intro of Succession. It's very reminiscent of that.
I started watching that. I need to get back on it. I remember exactly where I stopped because something
It's the
crazy happened.
best.
Okay,
It's the best.
I will get
I love
back
it.
on it.
Okay.
So my first question for you: who is Iffy?
I am a woman. I am a wife. I'm a mom of four little kids, four little black children in America, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
I am an avid reader, gardener, mountain biker, world traveler in a former life. I don't know. I could go on and on, but I just have I love doing different things, and I have a desire for communicating with people. And I'm trained as a lawyer, so I love to communicate what I'm trained in. And especially, when you talk about something that the Black community needs,
Yes.
and I see that it's not happening, that lights me up. And so
And so,
I'm all those things.
well, that sounds like a very nice variety and mixture of things. I bet you're probably the life of the party, and you always have a story to tell, huh?
I'm not the life of the party. I
No.
can extrovert when I need to, but I'm usually over talked out. Like I love to curl up with a book and go on a walk by myself, or go ride my bike by myself, or be in the garden and things like that. I have the gift of gab, but I'm not always talking.
Yeah, you sound like me. I'm super introverted. And people are like, how do you do a podcast and you're introverted? I'm like, it's one on one. It's a very
Easily.
controlled environment. Like it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the same.
I've
Um,
definitely become more introverted
mhm.
as I've gotten older. And as there's so many people in my house, it's like I enjoy quiet and alone and introspection. People not touching me.
You sound like me, but I think I might start heading in the opposite direction. I need to hang out with friends more and do more things and be more sociable, but I will get there one day. So what sparked your interest in the field of law?
Oh, that's a really good question. And it's not going to be deep. I always wanted to be a physician because my dad was a doctor. And so I went through all the motions. I went to the University of Texas at Austin, and I was pre med until 9/11. Okay,
Mm.
I'm really dating myself. I look younger than I am. And I remember that morning waking up and thinking, Well, if the world's coming to an end, I don't want to be in organic chemistry and genetics. Like,
That was your
because that's
thought.
what it felt like.
Oof.
And it's so appropriate because we're recording this 20 years and a week, basically,
Yeah.
to the anniversary. But 20 years ago, I was a sophomore in college. And I remember thinking, oh, this is it. This is how it ends. All those Will Smith movies that
Yep.
we'd seen, Armageddon, and all the, nuclear fallout type movies were really popular in the late 90s. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, okay, this is about to happen. And I thought, well, I would rather do something I enjoy, something more creative. And so I didn't go to law. I went to creative advertising.
Oh,
I
okay.
always loved marketing. I've always loved design. I've always loved to use my creativity, like visually. And so that was great, except that it was post 9/11 and all those jobs were disappearing and people who'd been working for 20 years were competing with new graduates. And one thing I enjoy is security. And I just felt
Yes.
like that seems like struggle. And so one day my brother was visiting me and in Austin, and he said, "You like to argue. Why don't you become a judge?" And I thought, "Oh, it's a great idea.
Wait,
What
wait,
do
wait,
you
wait, wait.
think?"
You like? Do you like to argue?
With him, I mean, he's my brother. We used to fight like Tom and Jerry. That's what my parents used to call us. We used to, I mean, we get along great. He's actually coming to my house this evening. But yeah, I don't love to argue, but I love to debate, if that makes sense. I
Oh
think that's
yeah,
probably what
that's me.
I'm taking from that. And so I just looked into the prerequisite of, first of all, I didn't even know a judge had to be a lawyer. Like I'm talking
Oh,
pre-Google. I'm like, what does it take to be? Oh, judges are it sounds really dumb now, but if you're not in the legal field, there's no one in your family that's in the law. I don't know.
yeah, right.
I
You
don't
don't
know what
know.
it takes. And so I looked and I thought, oh, I just have to take one test. I don't even have to take all these pre-med type pre-law classes, and took the test, got into the same university I was already in, and that's the rest is history.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Wow, what what an interesting journey. It's interesting how events in our lives can just spark such a change.
Yes.
For sure, I would have to say some of the same things or similar things happened to me in my life that led me to podcasting. And people
Hmm.
just talking. You give such good advice. You're such a good listener. You should have a podcast. I'm like, man, I ain't doing that. But
Here we are.
here we are, right? So, in particular, your area of focus is estate planning, correct?
Yes.
So, I know because you submitted a questionnaire, but can you elaborate on why you chose that particular field?
Well, the first 10 to 11 years of my career, I did school law, education law. My parents are both educators. My dad taught at medical school. My mom was a teacher, science
Shout out to my
at high
teachers.
school. Shout out to the science teachers taking all of that they take. And so I knew I would never do that. And I worked for corporate nonprofits for a very long time, and I got fired. I mean, long story short, I got fired after 10 years at my last job. And
Mm.
I like to believe that I was a very beloved employee. And so I kept my kids in the on-site daycare. And one day, one of the moms asked me if I did wills. She was working for a financial planning firm, and whoever the attorney they had that they were giving referral business to was putting the wrong names on wills. So when people were coming to sign their documents, they'd have the wrong name. And I just thought,
Mm-mm.
dang, that dude's getting referrals. And I bet I could do that better. I know I wouldn't put the wrong name on the will. And literally, that's how I got into estate planning. And just for those who are already zoning out, because you're like, what the heck is estate planning? I don't have an estate. What does this have to do with my experience? No pun intended, but intended. Um, and so everyone has an estate. Everyone has an estate.
Yes.
If you are 18 years old and you can make decisions for yourself, which means that you're not under a conservatorship or guardianship, depending on where you live, no one's making decisions as a guardian over you as an adult. You have to make certain decisions about what's going to happen to you if you have a health emergency, and your belongings, whether or not you have student loan debt, no home, renting, living at home, laid off. It doesn't matter. You still have to make certain critical decisions. And the way that you do so legally is the field of estate planning.
I'm so glad you said that. And I hope that really perked y'all up and you're listening and you're writing this down. Estate planning can make your life, well, the lives of the people after you pass on, so much more easier. It just alleviates so many issues. I did real I was a realtor for a few years, so when I came across a property that needed to be sold and the estate was not taken care of, I could get a buyer instantly.
Absolutely.
But probate and all that stuff and the arguing and I want this and I want that, it would prolong the process and make it so much more difficult for the family just to move on to that next step. So even if you are younger, start thinking about that. Talk to your parents about that. Hey, mom, dad, whoever your legal guardian is or whatever your relationships are with those people, ask them like, do you have a will? Have you done some estate planning? You should ask it. I mean, it may seem uncomfortable, but it's highly important. My dad had that conversation with me when he fell ill, and we went
Mm-hmm.
over quite a few things. I'm like, Dad, why the heck are you telling me this? I think I was like 21. I was like, I don't like, you're fine. And then he passed away, and then I was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
shoot. But I had the knowledge and the know-how, knew where everything was, and knew what to do from there, and it was easy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just to piggyback on that, it's not only when you die, it's for incapacitation as well. There is
Mm-hmm.
a woman back in the 90s. Her name was Terry Schiavo. She ended up having a heart attack, cardiac arrest, and fell into a vegetative state.
Mm.
And she was 26-year old and she was married, right? In prime of her life, no kids, like, probably just living it up. I think she was in Florida. And her husband and her parents, at first they agreed, like, let Terry's gonna make it out of this. We're gonna
Yep.
pray, blah, 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 blah. And then her husband remembered her telling him, if I ever have an emergency, I don't want to be kept in that kind of state. Well, there was no paperwork to that effect, and her parents didn't agree. And so
Mm-hmm.
they had a 7-year court battle to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars, fighting each other
Mm.
over whether to pull the plug and let see what happens to her and stop the artificial feeding and breathing, or continue to have her in a persistent vegetative state. It was a huge news story. It's like an abortion story where you have the pro and the anti,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the reason why this particular part of estate planning is really important. And that's like making decisions about, if I'm ever in a coma and I can't consent for myself, how do I want to be kept?
Yep.
Do I want my parents going bankrupt? Do I want my spouse? Do I want my kids like losing everything because they have me plugged up? And I know it sounds so morbid to talk about that,
Mm-hmm.
but Terry Schiavo was 26. So this whole idea of, oh, why are we talking about this? I'm in the prime of my life. I'm still on my hustle. I'm building,
Yep.
I'm grinding out here. Listen, tomorrow is not guaranteed for anyone. And it's not necessarily death that can really impact your life. It could be a horrible COVID, the after effects of a COVID,
Yep.
that um, COVID exposure that you survive, but now it could affect your life, your ability to work, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to be able to keep your voice in those decisions so you can make decisions for yourself and not have other people fight over it. Or if you have no one, have some random ethics board decide whether you're going to live or die,
Yep.
right?
Wow. Yeah. You.
That has nothing to do with being rich, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That has nothing to do with having a Kanye estate, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the reality of it.
Yeah, like you said, decisions have to be made. And just for y'all, just to give y'all some more of my personal life. I'm 36. I'll be 37 in December. When I look at my life in my 20s versus where I am now, and again, not trying to be morbid, more of my peers have been passing away in my 30s at a
Mm,
much higher rate. This before COVID. Then more so in my 20s. Like it seemed like at one point it was like every other month a college classmate or somebody passed away, and I'm like, they were 33, they were 34, they were 29, and like it's a wake up call because, like you said, tomorrow is not promised. And I mean, COVID didn't teach y'all anything else. It should have taught you two things. One, you do need to have your affairs in order. Two, you need to save your freaking money.
mm,
Okay? And you need to have a strong plan B. It should have been a huge wake up call. And this is one of those things, especially in our community, that we don't do a good enough job of. So, Iffy, thank you for what you are doing. Now, this is a question, a personal type question that I have, and especially for the people out there who are actually really tuning in and considering doing this, because some people
Hmm.
don't do it because of the misconceptions that are surrounding this. Do you know of any common misconceptions about ownership and assets? Because I know some people
Yeah.
think just because they're in a certain position, they automatically get things, and it doesn't work that way all the time.
Yeah, so lots of misconceptions. If we're talking about assets, like that could be anything you own that
Mm-hmm.
is an asset, right? Whether it's a home, a bank account, a life insurance policy, whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that there are many misconceptions. Some people think because they are married, it automatically will go to their spouse,
Yep.
right? And it depends what kind of state you live in, because some states have community property laws and some have separate property, which means that if you came into a marriage with stuff already on your own and you haven't mingled it with your marriage partner, then that stuff continues with you, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you ever break up or that property gets passed on in a different way. Okay. So there's the complexities there. I'm not even going to go into that. I don't want to lose y'all. The next thing is if you have kids, people automatically assume that if you have a child, that your mom will get them or whomever you want will get them, especially in situations where you're not with the other parent,
Mm-hmm.
right? The assumption is that the other parent will get them, but in places where that other parent might be incarcerated, that other parent might be abusive but not have their rights terminated, that other parent might be absent, right? Or what I get a lot of, I get a lot of clients who are single by choice and have babies by IVF. And
Ah.
so there are things that they might assume. Actually, they actually are my favorite clients because when I tell you people who know what they want and have gone and gotten it,
Yeah.
they are detailed like that when they are getting their estate plan and protecting that child too.
Mm-hmm.
But there are things that you can't take for granted, like what if there isn't someone for that child to go to? Then what? Who are you going to put in place? Because there's no automatic. What everyone needs to pick up from this conversation is that if you do nothing, hear me and hear me well, the state, wherever you live, already has a plan for you and already has a plan for all your stuff. And so
Mm.
don't buy any of the lies that, estate planning is not for me until I get to this level. I haven't bought the amount of life insurance that I want. I don't feel comfortable with how my coins are situated in my bank. Oh, I'm trying to pay off this, I'm trying to invest in that. We don't know the day or the hour. No one knows, right? And then historically, the reason that nobody does estate planning is because if we want to talk about the history of how this started, you go back to English law 1,000 years ago when we talk about property ownership, and you're talking about land owning white men, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people who were passing on their acres and they were passing on their cattle or whatever, their sheep, whatever it is they're passing on with the use of the estate planning process. Move it to the United States about 400 years ago. What were they passing on? They were passing on enslaved people,
Mm-hmm.
right? They were passing on heads of cattle. They were passing on acreage, right? A lot of that system still is in place today. Some of these trust companies, okay, that are in place today, they were writing those trusts up, right? They were managing those assets. They might be in, but they keep records.
Yeah.
One thing about they keep records, right? And so one thing you have to know is you might feel ignorant about it because this is a system that was never intended for you as someone depending on whether you're a woman or a person of color who was considered property to have the ability to use in order to protect yourself and your legacy. So we're talking about a complete paradigm shift here. It is not a norm for 70% of Americans to have a will. And that's not even an estate plan, that's
Whew.
just a component of it. When it comes to Black people, when it comes to people in the Latinx community, Asian Americans, that number is higher. And I dare to say, with COVID-19 ravaging certain communities, it's even worse. Okay. And so, for those who have an ear to listen, there's a reason that you may not prioritize this. It is historical that your parents and your grandparents didn't do it, but it can completely change your life, your children's life, and their children's children's life if you take certain steps today. And now, I mean, not necessarily as you listen, but look, if it is today, then so be it.
So for that person who just heard what you said and they want to do this and they want to get started, where should they start?
Well, the first thing you have to do is I okay, I'm going to give levels, right? I
Okay.
don't think that this is something that you should put off, right? It's an investment to get an estate plan done. It's not something that you should do on LegalZoom. It's not something you should do yourself, okay? And if you feel like money is your biggest barrier, there are ways to get it done for free or low bono. Clinics that off law lawyers put on. For example, I work for a legal clinic for cancer survivors or people who are battling cancer, and we'll do their estate plan for free. So even if you can't afford it, like legit, not because you don't want to spend money on it. Because I had
Mm-hmm.
one consultation once, this person didn't want to pay for their estate plan because they didn't have money, but they were getting a Peloton delivered. Okay, I was like, yeah.
Priorities, people.
She's like, I gotta go. My Peloton just got here, and I was like, oh, okay, it's different. You can't afford it versus you don't think that it's of value to
Right.
you. Okay, if you don't think it's of value to you, that's a different conversation because oftentimes you may not qualify for a free or low service, right? Low
Mm-hmm.
bono service. For those of you who and then just check because lawyers charge different things depending on where you are in your assets, right? Find a lawyer, go find 5 to have a consultation with.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them do free consultations. I think the more serious ones do paid. And I'm saying that because I need to switch to paid because I get a lot of tire kickers, a waste of time for me, honestly,
Do it.
because people don't value your time. They just want to pick your brain. And I can't give you legal advice because you're not my client.
Mm.
But find a lawyer and talk to them about what you're trying to accomplish. Do you want to make sure that your children are protected? Do you want to make sure that, hey, I have this life insurance. I don't even have kids, but I want it to go to my alma mater or I want it to go to my niece and nephew. How can I set them up, right?
Right.
Even though you may not see stuff today, I have clients who have never had kids who do the most amazing things that they won't see. And they're like, I just want to set up. I can't stand my sister, but I love her son. You know, like,
So
I'm serious. They're
wow.
like, I'm disinheriting her, but I want him to have every advantage. And I'm leaving my entire estate to him and some life insurance. And there are things that you can buy and invest in that you may not see the benefit to you,
Mm-hmm.
but for that next generation, that you can set them up well, where you're not going to spoil them with like giving just lump sums of cash, but you're going to take care of college. You're going to take care of their any kind of education, maintenance support, their health needs. That's covered, right? And so, no matter where you are, whether you're married, whether you're single, whether you have a bunch of assets where you don't have anything, whether you have a lot of family or if you don't have any family, estate planning is for everyone. And the key is to find a lawyer, at least just have a consultation so you can express to them what you're trying to accomplish, what your goals are, and then move forward from there, you know? But I will say this, don't sit on somebody's consultation with no intention of like really moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
I had
Yeah.
somebody sit on my consultation. This is what it was like. I got to start making these paid. And
Yeah.
she had already gotten an estate plan and she's like, I just wanted to talk to you. I'm thinking of becoming a lawyer. It
What?
was really ridiculous. So, or I'm thinking of starting some businesses. I wanted to learn about business succession. I'm like, this is not the purpose, right? You don't want to go there and just pick somebody's brain. Like, really be
Yeah.
intentional about what your goals are and moving forward, how you would move forward with that person so that you're not just sitting there wanting free advice or if you pay, it's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I would start as a professional, as somebody who is an adult. I'm not talking professions like you're a teacher or you're a doctor, like just somebody who is out there supporting themselves in whatever capacity. And you're an adult. This is the sort of thing you need to like look into and normalize in your life.
Let's normalize it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
I'm with you on that whole consultation, tire kicking thing. I got a lot of
Oh,
that in real estate. A lot of that in real estate. And one thing I always tell people is, think about your career, your job, whatever it is you do day to day. How would you feel if someone walked into your, place of business or came to you for a service, and you're doing this for free with the intent of passing on knowledge and them moving forward, and they just waste your time basically.
yes.
Doesn't feel good. If your
It really
boss
doesn't.
if your boss called you and say, "Hey, I need you to come work, 2 hours for free," I'm pretty sure 99% of us would say no. Like,
Yeah.
what? No, I'm not doing this for free. So I really want y'all to think about that. And like you said, just be intentional. Write down whatever, no matter how dumb you think the question is, write it down. Come prepared to these meetings. Make sure that it is
Mhm.
efficient and effective so that you get what you need out of it, because this is your time too. Like,
Mhm.
this is your time too. So, and we have to stop being afraid. Some of us are just afraid, embarrassed because we don't have the knowledge. We try to become Google experts before we go see
Mhm.
somebody and try to use 2 or 3 buzzwords like we know what we're talking about. No, if I were to come to you, the first thing I'll say is I don't know anything about this. So
Perfect. That's what my job is. I don't go to my dentist and ask them, okay, I need this crown done. So are you using this kind of ceramic crown, and
Mhm.
what's the composition of it? And I read on here that some people are using gold, and this is the percent. No one would ever do that. If you had to go to a brain surgeon, you'd be like, now, is this the Da Vinci method we're using? Because I was watching on YouTube and I heard that some people go in, like, it's different when you're asking just to ask,
Mhm.
but to think about those sorts of scenarios and how, first of all, you'd never sit on any of their consults for free, right?
Right.
There's no way you're coming in, you're like, I just wanted to talk to you. They'd be like, okay, that appointment is going to cost this. So thank you for saying that. For the people listening who are doing stuff for free, which I need to stop, it's on us too, though.
Yeah.
Like, we're allowing it. And so, yeah, so just like I go to the mechanic, I don't know how to change a timing belt. I bet I could watch a bunch of YouTube videos, but I still don't know which parts and whether there's a thing you flush out at the end and
Yep.
do this, or I don't know how to fix a hole in my tire. Is it time for a new tire, or do I need to just fix the hole? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be in here burning rubber and taking all those fumes in, and I don't have the gear. It's the same thing with estate planning. That's the number one barrier. People are like, I just don't know enough. How do I know if it's That's what estate planning lawyers do.
Exactly.
That's our job. You don't go to law school to do that. You don't go take a wills and estate course. You entrust us with that responsibility. We carry malpractice insurance for that reason. And there's a lot of risk that you can transfer when you hire a lawyer versus trying to go to the library and get some forms, or
Mhm.
worse off, going on Google and saying, oh, I got a will. I already got it. I got a will. I just put my name in, dated it, and I signed it. Oh, was it witnessed? Was that document notarized? Do you know that our state law requires notarizations on these 3 documents, but not these 4? And that, do you know that your witness has to be an adult, but maybe they can be 14 here in this state? You don't know that.
You better flex them expert muscles.
What?
This is why you need an expert, ladies and gentlemen. They know things that you are not going to know.
Right.
Oh
Work
my
with a
goodness.
professional when you go, you're interviewing them, like Rob said, like, this is for you to bring your questions. If they talk down to you, if they make you feel like you're dumb and that this is above their head and it's too much fast talk, trust your instinct. Go to the next person, but pick 5 and do that as an experiment. Go to 5 lawyers and interview them on this until you find one that you're very comfortable with, and take money off the table when you're thinking about it, right? Because not everything that's cheap is right for you, right? Some
Facts.
things are going to be an investment. And just like, people love to stunt on Instagram back in the day. I mean, I don't know if people are traveling as much, but you pay thousands of dollars to go on a Bali trip or a
Yep.
Thailand excursion,
Yep.
right? And you get all those photos. Estate planning isn't like that. You're going to get some legal documents. It's not You're not going to be like, I did have a client though say, I got my estate plan. She flexed so hard. It was so awesome. She's actually a real estate influencer online, one of my clients, and she was talking about, she does the key resources, her handle,
Okay.
and she was posting on there about how she got her estate planning done. And I was like, that is
Yes.
so awesome. We got to do more of that.
We
Like,
do.
that's a flex. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just signed my estate plan. I just set up my children, right? Like, I just set up my health decisions. So no matter what, I'll be taken care of. But it is an investment. You don't necessarily get great, meals and a pool and all of that. But listen, you're investing now to save a lot of money later.
Peace of mind. Peace of
Oh
mind.
man, priceless.
So I want to shift the conversation a bit because another thing I noticed in your questionnaire that you talked about, and I want to pick your brain about this, is wealth.
Uh-huh.
So what do you consider wealth?
For me, wealth, I just got asked this question. Wealth is so much more than money in your bank. I consider wealth freedom, options, and time,
Ooh.
right? Like you talk about being beholden to an employer.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it. And this phase of my life, I've done it for many, many years. I couldn't do it because the idea of being able to pick up my kids from school at 2:50, take them to mountain bike classes or to art class or to gymnastics or whatever. And I got four of them, and several of them are in all of those things.
Whew.
Um, I that to me is like I don't have to give them the remnants of my day. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't get off till 6, so you can't do that because mommy's not home and I don't have a babysitter to come get you. You know, some of these after school programs, you'd be like, are you just assuming there's a parent at home? Because
Yeah.
who's taking the kid? Who's picking them up? You're over at 4. The workday doesn't end. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
I
so
know.
wealth is time freedom to me. That's the ability to be able to move around freely without being beholden to anybody else, right? And to create that, there's a risk in that, right? But the reward to me is so sweet, especially because my family, my husband and I are both entrepreneurs. This is such a golden time in our marriage. We were just talking about it because for almost the first 10 years we were working. It's like you can't do that because we need our health insurance and you can't go
Mm-hmm.
here and you only have 2 weeks and you can't take it this week, but that's the week I can take it because this person has already asked for time off, or that's when this event is working is taking place. That to me felt like bondage. The
Oof.
wealth besides the money is the time freedom, the freedom to make decisions. I was talking to one of my neighbors. She's from Turkey. I went to Istanbul the last time I left the country was
Oh,
2019.
nice.
And she was like, "Oh, I was telling her, oh, I love the Bosphorus River. It was just gorgeous. It was just, I can't wait to take my kids there." And she said, "Oh, yeah, yeah. Let me get your number. I want to make sure that when you go, I give you a good tour guide who can take you to the cave region. You can go on hot air balloons, or you can go here and here, and they won't scam you. They'll help you get around the country real easily without being taken advantage of." And I just thought, I told my husband, I was like, "Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Like, we could just go do a month in Istanbul, in Turkey. What if we did a month in Turkey and then we went to Nigeria with my mom? My family's from Nigeria. And just thinking about like setting up my business in a way where I'm not stopping business for that,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm going to be working from wherever I want to work. That to me is wealth. We have to separate it from just having money in the bank. You see people dying with financial wealth all the time, like the former CEO of Zappos, Tony Say.
Mm-hmm.
He died in a fire from smoke inhalation. He was worth millions of dollars, right? He didn't have no estate plan. His family's scrambling. That's just wealth. But it was like, yeah, he had it, but that's it, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't take that with you, but you take the memories and you take the experiences that you can. So when you ask me that, that's what wealth means to me. Now, I am in the wealth business when it comes to assets and passing on financial blessings to other people. So that there's the other component of it that's really important. But I really, as I age, I'm almost 40. It's shifted. Like I
Mm-hmm.
love being able to wake up and sleep in because I just start my day at 10. I don't
Oh,
do
I'm
anything
jealous.
before 10 and I'm done at 3. Okay? Like
Must
you
be
got to make it
nice.
work. Yeah, I'm not saying you should see my calendar. It is insane, don't get me wrong,
It should
but
be.
yeah, I take Mondays off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I gotta shuttle some kids. I gotta get the house to, like there's certain things that have to be done,
The
right?
balance. The
And
balance.
so that's what I'm building in this season. That's the wealth of it. This the richness of it, in addition to like I can tell you, I bought a lot of life insurance. Okay, I got
Mm-hmm.
4 kids. My husband bought a lot of like
Yeah.
I can tell you about all that stuff, and you can know the strategy about it. But the why is like while we're here, I want them to see us.
Yes. Yes,
I
yes.
want to be able to pick them up and say, "How was your day? What just happened today?" Not like at bath time or at bedtime.
Yeah.
But we got a good 3 hours. Let's go to the library. You're gonna read some books. I'm gonna probably like do some work, but we're together, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
let's go get ice cream at the town square. Whatever it is. I
Invaluable.
want them to see like, oh, my mom was, and like to be annoyed by it.
Yeah.
Oh, my mom is always at the field trip. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
am.
invaluable. They'll never forget it. Like, those of you listening, that had those experience. Like, I remember so many things that my parents did and how they were around and did things, and that stuff sticks with you. It
It
sticks
does.
with you. Like the money and the stuff that they bought me, I could probably name some of the stuff that they bought me, but the trips
They were
like to Myrtle
there.
Beach and them being there and the laughs and the jokes and the playing in the backyard, like I remember that stuff. You actually just sparked something in me. Now I think of one of the reasons why I enjoy teaching, and I left the profession to do real estate, and then I did something after that, but I came back because it's a little bit of a balance because I get pretty much every holiday off, and then I get the
Hmm.
summers off.
Summer.
So I love that time to just breathe. I get my time. I get my freedom. I have a stable schedule. I start early, but I get off early. So
Yeah.
I'm with you on that, and I'm actually working now to do a few things to kind of shifted. Maybe within the next 5 to 6 years, I might be able to be a full time entrepreneur once again, like I
Hmm.
was when I was doing real estate. But that risk is serious, y'all. Please make sure you plan and think about it because I did do it. It didn't work out for me, but I always had a plan B. Which I executed, but it was
Yeah.
fun. It is fun to set your own schedule, wake up when you want to wake up, go where you want to go. Just knowing that all I gotta do is pull out my phone or my laptop, I get anything done anywhere in the world. That feels
That's awesome.
great.
Yeah, definitely plan. I mean, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I'm an
Hmm.
employer. If we were all entrepreneurs, I wouldn't have any employees. And so, um, definitely be strategic about building your plan while somebody else is funding it. I mean, that's the best way.
Yeah, that is the best way. I don't
That's the
want
best
any of
way.
your headaches as an employer. Like my broker
Yeah.
in charge is my mentor still to this day, my former broker in charge, and we talk all the time. And he just sometimes he calls me, just lays out everything that's going on at the office, and I'm just like,
It's
ugh,
always something going on. Yeah.
always.
It's always something going on with managing people and clients and systems and processes. And I really am one of the people who thinks it's not for everyone, but if it's for you, listen, it is impossible for me to apply to work for anybody. I just can't. If I get job offers that I would have loved, like when I thought earlier in my career, if somebody offered me this, I'd just say yes. I'd be like, not gonna be able to. I can't even lift my fingers to type in my name in that application. I can't even make it to the meeting.
Mm,
Even if it's just like, here, I'm just going to give it to you. That's a hard no for me. Thank you for considering me. Keep that line of communication open, maybe in the next season, but for now, no.
that's
I
another
can't
good
do it.
feeling. That's another great
But
feeling to
but
be able to say no.
you have to have that because my
Yeah.
mom doesn't think it's great to be an entrepreneur. She thinks it's risky, and I think it's risky to depend on any kind of employer. As someone who was let go, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. See, I could have been let go. I gave y'all 10 years, and then you guys were like, peace,
Peace. We'll
right? I have
replace you
nice
next week.
severance, but
Yeah.
oh yeah, they moved on, and they're wonderful people. Don't get me wrong.
Hmm.
I needed to leave because I had entrepreneur blood in me, but I had to be forced out.
Well, I'm glad you have made a successful transition, and I only have one more question for. I have two more
Sure.
questions. Tell us about this book that you're working on.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited. So, I am writing an estate planning book for the rest of us. Okay. So, for the people who aren't from these old, rich white families, that we have the stereotype of who has estates, like the Hiltons and Rockefellers and probably the Kardashians and the Wests and stuff like that now. But you don't have to be, Beyonce and Jay-Z to have an estate, although they often talk about their kids' estate plan, and it really just makes my heart happy. I'm like, yes, more of that. Investing in art, I'm here for it. Um, and so I want to I'm a millennial, barely, okay? I just snuck in. But I want to encourage millennials because we are now the sandwich generation. We're taking care of our parents and we're taking care of whoever is coming behind us to empower, for lack of a better word that seems so overused, but to just activate people to get your estate planning done. It's for you. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It doesn't matter if no one you are around is doing it. It is for you. And this book is a guide on how to get started, how to talk to attorneys, the questions you can ask, just some statistics, just some of the historical stuff that I've been talking about even on our podcast a little bit. Just talking from the perspective of a black female estate planning lawyer in America, which we don't exist, okay? Only 5% of lawyers in the whole United States are black. Only
Ooh,
2% of that number of the out of the 2 out of 5% are women. When you drill that down, a lot of people do criminal, they'll do family law, they'll do um, you know, other types of law that you've heard of, personal injury. When
yep.
it comes to estate planning, I can't find the statistic. I know that I have gathered about 60 on my own in the country, but that's about what, two and a little bit per state.
Yeah.
So there's a reason like you don't see advertising coming from us in that area. And I've seen a shift in my clientele just being public and out there and putting my stuff on Instagram. But that's what I want to do. I want to really call people of color in, black people. Um, you are worthy. You are making enough money right now. Even if you're making no money, you're still worthy of making decisions over your health and your wealth. So that's what it's about. It'll be dropping end of 2022 or beginning of 2023. My final manuscript is due to the publisher. I'm being traditionally published. I'm
Nice.
working on my contract right now so I can
Nice.
announce the publisher. Um, but I have a big publisher taking on the project because my editor realized that it is something that needs to come out.
Hold
It's
on. Let me
something
let
that
me give you a
people
round
need.
of applause for that. That's what we talking about, baby.
So yeah, that's exciting. It's definitely. I need to be doing reels on that, right? I'm like, I need to
Yeah.
start being like, "Duh-duh-duh-duh-duh-duh." So I've been trying to like come up with all kinds of ways that I don't have to be like doing the busted challenge and stuff like that. I'm like, I gotta do stuff that still seems dignified for a lawyer. Please take
Yes.
me seriously, but I
Yes.
enjoy the other stuff too, and I can't dance as well. So yeah, I'll be talking about that a lot more when everything is signed.
Excellent, excellent. Iffy, thank you so much for your time. I'm definitely gonna keep in touch because we definitely want to hear more about this book and everything else that you may have going on. After some time passes, I'm pretty sure you'll have even more stories and even things we didn't touch on today. But I really enjoyed this conversation personally. You've
Thank
actually just
you.
brought up something. I've I've been adulting lately. I've invested in some companies. I've been looking at my paperwork, just got some more insurance, making sure the
Yes.
beneficiaries are listed and stuff like that. But I've not planned for everything. And I'm getting older. Getting a little older. And I'm like, what's next? What's next in
Yes.
my adulting journey? And this is probably what needs to be next. So I'm definitely going to take your advice and find 5 people that I can
Mhm.
talk to about this to see what the next steps are. So if
Awesome.
nobody else, you reach at least one person today. I'm pretty sure you reach more than one, but
Yes,
you've
that's
you've
awesome.
reached you've reached me. So thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to share with our audience? Any of your social medias, websites, any of that?
Sure. I have a lot of information on social media. My handle is at Iffy Ibekwe ESQ. That's my personal page where you can just follow what I'm up to. And then if you're just interested in estate planning, learning more, I offer a lot of resources on my page, willsintexas.com. And if you're a person who lives in Texas or Arkansas and you're ready to get your estate planning done, hit me up. I am always accepting new clients. And then the last thing I wanted to say is for those of you who are looking for lawyers in your state, and maybe you want to get Black lawyers in the mix, If you go to my bio on Instagram, I have a national Black estate planning database,
Nice.
lawyer database that I've been assembling. I think it has about 60 lawyers right now. And then anywhere else, just Google Iffy Ibekwe and it should come up. I've been on um, talking about it. I write about law and all kinds of things. So I'm on the internet for sure. My grandkids will see it. Uh, I'm like, oh, dang, they're going to have a lot of audio. But yeah, it's all out there. And I hope that I have motivated you to help yourself, help your parents, protect your children, protect your assets, make sure you get your healthcare stuff done and set people in place to help you. God forbid if there's an emergency.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Cue my outro music for y'all. Y'all already know what time it is. Iffy, thank you again for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, all of Iffy's information will be in the description. So if you want to reach out to her, you'll be able to do so from our description. Thank you all again for listening. All the people who like, share, and subscribe, we greatly appreciate it. Think about your estate. Think about what wealth means to you and how you're going to preserve that wealth and pass it on to the next generation. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourselves physically, mentally, and financially, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.